Hi, everyone. It's Ray from Ray Life Coaching, and we're starting again with the Manifesting Magic Manual, going over what I have for you online. You can just go to my website, raylifecoaching.com/free resources and click on the Manifesting Magic Manual to get what I will be talking about, going over the first part of the manual. There's 4 parts, but they're pretty extensive. So that's why I'm every month going over one part of it in some way, shape, or form. And we're going to start from the beginning. Last month, you'll check my video, just an overview if you have any questions. But this right today, which is May 20th on Monday. So I think it's the third Monday that I proposed, but please just check in my events calendar and Facebook to see. If you want to join me today on the webinar in Zoom, just check out the description to find that and you can get logged in there. Or you can just show up here and add some comments, please, and I will try to get to you as soon as I can while I'm on this call. Okay, so today, Manifesting Magic Manual. So I'm gonna share my screen so that you can see what I'm even talking about. And let's do that. Okay, so this is my website. This is what I was talking about initially, is that if you go to my website, raylifecoaching.com, and you go to free resources, and you'll see there's a few options here. You would just click on the Manifesting Magic Manual to enter your info, and you would get to an email. You would get an email to a link. You would have to put in a code, and that would bring you to this website, which gives you all of it. So whichever one you pick out of those free resources, you pretty much get it all in one page. And I want to kind of give you an idea of what this is all about. So you'll see that I have a confidence toolkit. That is the first step of the coming out process that I provide. And it is a way to get back to yourself, really trust your own voice and decisions, be able to even hear your own voice, because sometimes we get confused as to, what is mine and what is yours. So you'll see that I have the coming out. I'll just enlarge that. Oops, sorry about that. The coming out process. And so you would just click there, but then you have stop apologizing for who you are. And that's exactly what we're talking about today, which is Manifesting Magic Manual. So if you do go to this screen, if you sign up, you can just scroll down to that area. So pretty much it'll scroll down with that link and download it. And we're just going to go straight there. Let's see if I can get into that from here. Oops. Hey, hang on. Let me make sure I'm sharing. Just going to make sure I'm sharing the right thing. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to get into it right now. Slowly. Okay, you probably see it now. Yeah. We're going to make this bigger. Okay, so the manifesting, I can't even say it, Manifest Magic Manual is here, and I'm going to give you a little preview. Let's stop the share and go somewhere else. Hang on. Sorry about that. I want to pull it up a different way. Just have to download it. Okay. So it's always confusing. Know why it's doing it all separately, which is kind of annoying. Okay. You know what? I'm just going to do it from here. So you're going to see that. Okay. Okay, so we are here and still going to the manual. I'm going to download it. Makes it a little easier. I don't know why I didn't do that before. Okay, so technology is my friend. It is my friend. Okay. So here we go. Okay, so that's the manual. And we are going to talk about the first part of the manual, which is this is mine, that's yours, codependency no more. Have you noticed that you don't know what is yours or theirs? And that's kind of what we were talking about, right? Like just being able to listen to yourself. So the confidence toolkit that you'll see on my website is about how to really listen to yourself. And it's the precursor to this manual. However, if you feel like you're really listening to yourself, you're just not doing the things that you need to be doing. Like, you know exactly what you need to be doing, but you're not doing them. Well, this manual is what you need. It's a really good way to kind of like get that confidence and start really moving it into the real world. And funny enough, I'll just tell you a story about today. I I was really feeling very unmotivated. I've been feeling very unmotivated for actually gradually for the past few months. And today I was like, I know what I need to do, like I know what I want to do. So I just got to do one thing, just one of these things. And one of them was get my juicer out. And so I got my juicer out, this new juicer that my friend gave me. You'll see it on Facebook if you look. And I just used it, and that started the momentum of finally feeling motivated. Of course, I do my morning practice. That's the confidence toolkit. Just so you're aware, there's a practice that I do every morning, or at least try to do every morning. And it does help. It helps me go, I know what I need to do. Just do that, like go, I know what I need to do. Now I just have to get myself to do it. And I'm like, yeah, just one step at a time. And it could be just taking that juicer, taking it out and assembling it. And that's it. Like you don't have to go, I'm going to make the best juice ever, or it might totally suck, and that's okay. So we're talking about the manifesting magic manual, and the 4 parts of it, as I described last month, are codependency no more, consent and boundaries, having hard conversations, honestly hard conversations. So the honestly is the big part of the hard, and then feeling amazing in your skin. And all of this is about personal health, but in action. So meaning like we have to do these things in order to feel great in our body. And so at the end is feeling great in your body when you do these things. So we're going to go to codependency no more. And let's just do an explanation of what codependency is. So it's not exactly a diagnosis, and thankfully so. I think we all have a little bit of this in some way, shape, or form. So I'm just going to read the Psychology Today version. Codependency is a dysfunctional relationship dynamic where one person assumes the role of the giver sacrifices their own needs and well-being for the sake of the other, the taker. The bond in question doesn't have to be romantic. It can occur just as easily between parent and child, friend and family members. So, signs in yourself related to codependency, and these are like kind of more drastic signs. So, if you see it as a spectrum, which I think everything kind of is, there's this place where you may be on a spectrum all the time. Like you might be more so over here, whatever over here is, more on an average, right? But there might be people in your life that you're like not codependent at all with, and it feels really awkward, maybe, because you might be really more codependent on average. So I want you to it's more about paying attention to some of the things you may do or feel that would land you a little more on the codependent side during certain situations. So it's not just all the time. Okay. So signs in self, lack of satisfaction or purpose in life outside of the relationship. So for instance, me even just being like, I can't get myself to do anything. Like if you're feeling like you require certain outside stimulation and you're dependent upon it in a certain way, especially a person or people, then there might, and they it's great to have that accountability, but that's driven from you, right? While if the outside person is really driving you to do something that you're not even questioning whether or not you even want, then that's where it comes into play. Tendency to endure a partner's harmful or whoever's harmful behavior. This could be anywhere, right? If you're just like enduring, and why? It's grating. It's probably like sandpaper on you, and you're wondering why your skin is so thin and you're very vulnerable and you're getting sick all the time, or you're complaining all the time, or your health is, you're getting heavier or whatever. Tons of things. Realization of idealizing your partner. So, this word idealization of your partner is, I think some of us might go, oh, I don't idealize them. But if you always refer to them, if you think they know more or you act, you might not actually think they know more, but you may be acting like they know more with that particular person. And they may be calling you out on it. Hello, I'm one of those people who does this. They may be calling you out on it, and it might be pissing you off. But it is a habit. It's something that codependent habits may occur. So these are just tendencies. Enabling partners' poor choice and behavior. Yeah, pretty much the same thing as tendency to endure partners' harmful behavior. Controlling behavior. Maybe you're trying to control your partner to be something that they're not, or not fully accepting them and doing manipulative behavior in order to sway it in your direction without really doing the work by standing up for yourself or saying, hey, I don't really want to do that. See you, bye. Whatever it is. Guilt when not attending to your partner's needs and wants. It's funny because I was just talking to one of my partners and about money and the trade of money. And this is really just like needs and wants, right? Trade of energy. So if you're feeling like you have an abundance of energy and you, for some reason, feel like you need to give more because of that to your partner or to whoever, it's like, why not save it for yourself? Why not save it for whatever? And this goes for money, this goes for energy, time. There's a place where you have to maybe think about, where is that decision coming from? Is it coming from guilt? Is it coming from fear? Then most likely there's something that you need to kind of step back on. unwillingness to state needs, desires, moral stance due to fear of conflict. I had this friend put a few years ago where, although they weren't acting the way they said they were acting with other friends or other people, how they were telling what they were telling me about their situations with other friends or other family members was alarming. And so instead of actually saying, hey, I don't really like how you're how what I'm hearing and it's concerning to me. I don't exactly want to be associating with people who do things or believe things or act in the way that you are. You may not be doing it to me, but I'm very concerned. I might not need to even say that actually, because if I'm really concerned and scared, then I probably should just end relationship in some way. But there's a place where what's what someone tells you and shows you, whether they're acting toward you, they might be being mean to their own partner, right? Or your coworker's treating another coworker badly, and you're like, oh, or they're, complaining about their spouse, or they're complaining about whatever. And although it's not about you, there is a place where that behavior is telling you something about where that person's at, and being mindful that who you have around you is who you are, really. So, um, okay, taking on undue blame. Yeah, this is interesting. Yeah, sometimes I think codependent people may actually blame themselves, but there is a place where they have people in their lives, whether work, family, love, or friendship, or whatever, or even just somebody off the street who, will attack, come at you and try to, you know, um, say it's your fault, or whatever. Not to say that, you know, we don't all have something we're doing that's probably a little off and have some responsibility for sure, for our lives and for how we affect people. But this is a little different. This is like undue blame. So there's a place where we, as a codependent kind of personality, or in a situation where we feel most guilty, most responsible, um, and it may only happen in that situation for some reason for you. And so just paying attention to when you do kind of feel really responsible, and what, the why might not be that important, but it might be um, a sign of when you might make decisions, and you may not talk about it. You might enable other people's poor behavior. Other trickle down effects may happen because of it. So taking on too much responsibility, that's pretty much the same thing. It's like the blame. If you're taking on undue blame, it most likely means you're also taking on too much responsibility. And in that, there's this feeling of controlling behavior, which is funny. You wouldn't think that. But at least when and this is interesting, when I do that, when I feel like I'm responsible, I think what it is that it's a coping mechanism of not liking how things are going, or not wanting to accept where someone's at. And so I'll take the blame. I'll feel responsible. And I may do things to try to manipulate and control others in a certain way that's kind of backhanded. And that's it's really like a big sign for yourself to pay attention to. Um, and when it happens, you can be like, oh, what am I not feeling uncomfortable? What do I not feel comfortable with? And a lot of the time, it's other people's feelings about what you may need, or vice versa, your feelings about what someone else may need. It's kind of a reciprocal kind of thing. Say preoccupation with the other person's thoughts and feelings. So pretty much that, we're uncomfortable with other people's thoughts and feelings. And so we may do things that set off a like a domino effect in order to help alleviate our own uncomfortability around others and what they may think about us, they may do if we want this. And it's about consent. Strangely enough, it's a huge amount about consent. So it was first coined. So codependency was first referred to in relationship between caregivers of alcoholic partners. So it doesn't mean that you have to have that background at all, actually, but it is something that occurs with addiction, where the people who surround an addictive person tend to be addicted in protecting and caring for and enabling that addicted person. So it's if you're around someone who's addicted in a certain way, or you are, there's a place where there's a lot of enabling in order instead of really doing the hard love, So the ingrained belief and habits to be responsible for others' feelings. So this is just like a little, chart. So you have codependency in the middle, and you have these three different aspects: insecurity and resentment, lack of boundaries, and inability to have honest communication due to not having the skills. And then you have keeping the peace by saying yes when it's not what they want. So if you find yourself doing that, I've done that multiple times, to avoid the uncomfortable feelings. Uncomfortable feelings sometimes of others. To just say yes, because if I say no, the person's gonna blah, 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 and I don't know how. And so that goes to the the inability to communicate because of skills. So I might not know how to be like, okay, how to set boundaries, because really the skills may be setting boundaries. So funny enough. So they kind of go around there. Okay, seeks worthiness from external validation and being needed. So this kind of like a reasoning for why. So your insecurity and resentment, and your inability to have honest communication due to not having skills, the thing that's kind of in the middle of that is seeks worthiness from external validation. It's kind of what I was talking about. Like if you're making a decision, and one of them is I think it was like idealization of partner, tendency to endorse partners. I think it was the idealization of partner. But if you're making a decision and you're always referring to the other, like some external, as your motivator, as your reference, then, and it's not just for accountability of your own desires and wants and feeling good, but more because you want to be accepted and worthy of their whatever connection, then that's when the insecurity starts to show up. Trying to control or fix others' behavior, feelings, and or problems. So this is the controlling aspect, right? We're trying to fix. Maybe we offer a fix, like to say an addicted person or someone who's just having a problem, and we just offer, a savior kind of explanation, or how they can fix whatever their problem is. Well, it's sometimes an inability to, it's almost like saying a yes when you might not actually want to be the person who they are divulging this this stuff to. You're holding for them. You may also be slightly resentful for someone to just divulge all of this stuff on you. But you may be offering a fix because you want to feel worthy, but you also are doing it in a controlling manner. So it's very interesting, right? Because a lot of the time, I think when someone is codependent, they tend to look like a helper and a fixer and a people pleaser. But the reality is they're actually uncomfortable, uncomfortable with what's happening, not only uncomfortable with other people's feelings, but also uncomfortable with their own wants and needs. And they might not actually be able to listen to those. So we're looking at, and I'm just gonna, okay, we're looking at, sorry, uh, I was gonna look at something. What was I gonna look at? I wanted you to just see it as it was. So let's see. That's not what I wanted. All right. I don't know if that helped, but yeah, we're looking at the descriptors of the codependency and the different players, I guess you would say, but also what the difference is between an interdependent person acting in accordance to their own desires, but also being there, knowing that people are of value in their lives. So we're going to go over that. Interdependence. Make that real big. Sorry, like where's that? Okay. So interdependence, having healthy boundaries. So we're going to get into that in the next area, because I think a lot of the time we go, okay, that word boundaries, and it's overly used, right? But in the end, I'm just going to give you a really quick example of what a healthy boundary might look like. Um, it might be that you have a friend and they're kind of new. You've never really gone out with them that often. And you guys decide to, um, you know, meet at a cafe and at a certain time. And you're at the cafe on time and 5 minutes go by, no show. And you're like, okay, I'm going to text them. No response for another 5 minutes. And you're like, should I leave? I have a lot to do today. Like, I don't know this person that well. And then let's say a few minutes later or 5 more minutes later, maybe you call them and then finally they don't pick up. Finally, they text you a few more minutes after that and they're like, oh, I'm on my way. And I'm like, ooh, you're like, ooh, I probably should have left by now. So it's knowing where your boundaries are. How long do you wait for someone you don't know that well? You know, um, it's knowing who you want to be around and how do they act? How do you act? What is okay to you? Because there's going to be some places where you're like, okay, well, I want to look like a down to earth person who can roll with the punches. Well, do you really? Do you really? So it's knowing, what do you do in that occurrence? Do you text them and say, oh, I'm sorry, I already left? Oh, I'm sorry, I don't wait that long. Or do you go, I'll be here for a few more minutes, but if you're not here, I'm sorry, I have some things to do later on. So I didn't think this was going to take that long, but, or something, you know, that's really hard for people to do, right? But it's about you knowing what you need and how to communicate that. And it, over time, you get tested, right? So there's going to be times where you're like, I've never experienced this. I don't know how to respond to this. So active listening, it's being able to really hear what people are saying and repeat it back and, you know, have an active communication back and forth. Schedule time for personal interests so that you're actually taking time caring for yourself in the way that you need. Clear communication, being very direct, not passive aggressive. And those are things that sometimes we forget, and not being like overly harsh, but, you know, takes responsibility for their behaviors, creates safety to be vulnerable. So what does that mean? What is safety to you? Responds to emotional bids. What are emotional bids? You know, and strong self-esteem. You know, I think strong self-esteem is really being able to do all these things, really, because it means that you're really believing in yourself, and you've doing them will build that self-esteem. Being open and approachable with others. So it's funny because although boundaries seem like they're cutting people off, if anything, they're about being open and clear with others as to how they should treat you, you know, and actually by doing that, you're allowing them to be themselves because you're actively listening. You're clearly communicating with them, which communication is back and forth. It's hearing and voicing and really accepting what other people are showing up as and saying they are at the same time. Okay, so examples of codependency, and then there's this kind of in between, fixer and enabler, and then there's the independent. So we're going to have examples here. So has little opinion to avoid not fitting in or rejection. Speaks for others to avoid discomfort of the other, not having an opinion. So you'll notice in the graph here that sometimes, although this is codependent, sometimes you may kind of go into the fixer mode. And this really just matters. This is the control aspect. This really just matters like what's happening, right? And how uncomfortable you feel. And if you think maybe, and you might not think this, but if you actually are becoming the enabler in this situation, in that maybe someone is, the example was maybe someone is, you know, complaining about their life in a certain way, and they just keep on doing it every time they see you, and it tends to be the same thing that they're complaining about over and over again. And there's a place where it's like they're kind of putting their burden on you, right? Just like if someone is an alcoholic and they, you know, have some complaint about their life, and it's because of the alcoholism, in so many ways, and you're trying to fix it. It's kind of similar in that that's their responsibility, and instead they're kind of offloading it to you, which there's no way of doing that. It just doesn't work that way, right? So so there's a place where you may become a fixer or an enabler, but in a way, I think they're codependent and the enabler, are kind of I think they're kind of similar, but their actions and their behaviors look different, right? So you may has little opinion to avoid not fitting in rejection, speaks for others. So it really matters upon the person that you're dealing with. Can have healthy debate with care. So meaning like they can disagree, they're not speaking for anybody but themselves. And they're caring in that disagreement. Now, how the other people react is your boundaries, right? So if someone reacts in a certain way, well, there's tools of de-escalating or moving the conversation into a different way. But then there's places where there's boundaries of like, and that's kind of boundaries with yourself of like, I'm going to now utilize this tool and see how this goes for a certain amount of time. And if that doesn't work, then I'm going to stop this conversation, or I'm going to stop this behavior, I'm going to leave or whatever. Does not ask for what they need. So this is a codependent behavior. Does not ask for what they need and feels resentful that people don't ask or listen to them. May be secretive and or assume what the codependent needs to avoid uncomfortable conversation and feelings. So maybe secretive and or assume what the codependent needs. So if the codependent does not ask for what they need, the enabler and fixer may assume what they need and not actually ask, and instead just do, because they're taking too much of the responsibility. As you can see how you can kind of enmesh these two together, because it's like, which side am I on? Well, you could be flip-flop all over the place. Proactively asks for what they need and prepares to care for themselves if needs are not met. It's really all about them. But in doing that, by being very clear about yourself and caring for yourself, you're actually inadvertently caring for others, because you're allowing that, you're one, being a great example, and two, allowing them, hopefully you're also saying, oh, I do it, you're allowed to do this too, like, I'm going to listen to you, I'm going to pay attention to what you tell me and how you act, and I'm going to believe you. So the next action from a codependent is says sorry and blames themselves for others' actions and feelings. Then the fixer tries to fix it and brings attention to the codependent's insecurity so that they feel needed. Wow. Whew, that's a hard one. So is only accountable for their responsibilities and holds others accountable for their part in the matter. It's kind of funny, but it's not, because what it comes down to is really understanding what is your part, what do you need, and how do you voice it, and what are the actions you need to do to stand by it. So here's the enabler and fixer traits. The fixer, the enabler, thinks that they can help by fixing the codependence problems. It's funny because this codependency used to be just about the addiction, partner, the person who was an alcoholic, and the codependent person was a person taking care. Now you can see like, oh, the codependent person was kind of doing that, was being a fixer and enabler to the alcoholic. But there's also a place where they may have been a codependent in other actions as well. So there's definitely a meld here. Feeling overwhelmed by codependence addiction on what the enabler is doing. So codependency in itself, in so many ways, is also an addiction, as well as a fixer and enabler is an addiction, like in so many ways, because if you're kind of, there might be an addiction is a big word, right? It's a really strong word. So what I'm meaning by addiction is that there's something you're getting from it that you might not be willing to let go of. And so knowing what you're getting from it is important, would be helpful. And knowing what it's worth to let go of what you're getting from it is important. So what else could you be getting? Like maybe feeling better, maybe there's way more things you wouldn't even know you would be getting if you let go of that need to avoid feelings, uncomfortability, or that's a big part of it. Those two are a big part of codependency and the fixer enabler. But also avoid maybe being this feeling like you're it's interesting because sometimes especially the fixer enabler may feel like they are better than they're doing better than the person they're trying to fix, when in reality they're probably not. Like if they're still in the relationship or they're still acting in that way, most likely they're not feeling very good. First off, they probably don't feel good even doing that, but there's an addiction to that, right? Just like drinking alcohol, and it's hurting you and you just keep on drinking it because there's something you're getting from it. And again, drinking or any addiction tends to be about not wanting to pay attention to the uncomfortable feelings, to the feelings that are really hard, whether it be trauma or just small trauma or just feelings in general. A lot of us aren't taught how to even feel and pay attention and understand what those feelings and emotions mean. Okay, so feeling overwhelmed by codependence addiction on what the enabler is doing, feeling controlled and restricted, which may lead to emotional and physical distance. So an enabler or fixer may actually feel controlled by the codependent because the codependent needs that person or thing to feel fulfilled or feel like they're worthy. Okay, so there's like this attachment. An enabler and fixer may be doing enabling and fixing to kind of distance themselves and feel, and it's a way of like saying, oh, no, I fixed it, so go away, like your feelings should be null and void. I gave you a fix, and it may be a way to kind of help protect themselves because they don't have other skills to help protect themselves, which are boundaries. Secretive and resentful instead of communicating and setting boundaries. There you go. Pretty much said the same thing. So control and own. So what can we control and own? So I'm going to say this serenity prayer. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I put this in because I say it very often. I was brought up in Alatot at like age 5 to 8. And that mini prayer stuck with me because we had to say it in the beginning of our meetings. But it stuck with me because it meant something really valid to me. I think it's very wise, actually. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I think that last part is the hardest part because sometimes we think we can change others, and we get enmeshed so much that we forget what is ours. What do we even want? So what can we control and own? So this is a practice. I would love for you all to do this coming month. Go to my website, raylifecoaching.com. I'm just gonna stop this. And I want to end, sorry. Not sure, sorry. Okay, so I want you to go to my website. So let's do that again. Go to my website and if you go to raylifecoaching.com or Renee, RENEEBEYOR.com, then you will, no, actually, you can see it right there. slash free dash resources, or go to the more and go to free resources. You'll go to this page and you'll see that there's these three free offerings: Magnetic Smile, Guide to Connection, Connecticut, Confidence Toolkit, and Manifesting Magic Manual. Click on the download. You'll get an email to a link to a website page. And then if once you go, you'll get to this page. You'll log in with a code, and then you'll get to this page. You'll scroll down to whichever one you want, which is Manifesting Magic Manual, and just press on download now. And that's how you'll get this information. Yeah, that's it. So I realize that this one does not have the writable. So I may upload the writable for you so that you have that as well. Recall 3 codependent. So this is the practice. Recall 3 codependent behaviors, whether it be of yourself. Well, it says yours, but if you can't think of your own, that's fine. And then offer independent alternative behaviors, which is important. And then the second one is identify 3 people who enable or how they do this. So maybe yourself, it's fine if it's not other people's behaviors that are enabling or fixers. And then suggest healthier responses they could do instead. And then admire. Name 3 people you admire for their interdependent behavior. Explain what they do and why it works. Where are you doing this in your life? And maybe where you're not, just kind of get an idea of where you stand, what behaviors you may need to pay attention to in yourself, but also what behaviors may you need to pay attention to in the people around you, and how would you respond differently. Of course, we're not talking about boundaries yet, but if you wanted to think about, where your limits are, hey, great. Our next month is going to be about attachment styles. I'm just going to scroll into that. So we're going to talk about different attachment styles. And this seems like really small, right? But attachment is huge. If you're a polyamorous person, which if you know anything about me, the coming out process came from me coming out as polyamorous. And it's attachment styles are so informative when you're starting to date, and when you're getting into deeper connections with people, especially if you're getting into more than one, because you're noticing you may have a different attachment response to people and their behaviors, right? So it's really interesting to kind of look at, and very, very good learning. It's a good way to learn about yourself and others and how to be a better human being in action. Okay, so then we're at consent and boundaries. So hopefully I've been I feel like I've been dragging lately. So this past few months, I don't know if you know, I'm going to get a little personal, but my father passed away in January. And although I had already thought about standing back from my business a little bit more and starting to just give myself time to reassess what was most important in what I was doing, it actually made me step back even more. And so, but in doing that, I realized I understood why I scheduled myself so much. I'm starting to understand more. And the reason is doing or just taking action sometimes helps spur on more clarity and more confidence. But so when I'm not doing that, I find myself not being as motivated. So the reason I'm mentioning that is because I really would like to, next month when we're doing this in June, when we're talking about attachment, I really want to offer you some worksheets, something to think about during that month related to attachment. So I'll be working on that. That's my goal for next month. And I'll be writing that down right now, actually. And um, you know, in the interim, if you see this video and you are working on that one sheet about let me get to that again. That one sheet about codependency is really good just for awareness. But as you start to be aware, you might start to think about why, you know, what is triggering you, maybe, you know, to act in a certain way. What may be triggering other people? And maybe you have people in your life that you can actually talk about these things with safely. That would be great. Whether it be a therapist or the actual person that you're writing down on this sheet, to really kind of get an idea of like, oh, how could I be responding differently to this? Because this isn't working, or vice versa. Like, you can't control other people's behavior, but if other people are in it with you, then maybe you can have an actual conversation about it. Um, that would always be nice, right? Sometimes we can do those things. But next month, like I said, I want to have a worksheet for you on attachment styles. So that will be next month's work. And the month after that, which is July, we'll be working in consent and boundaries. There's a lot in this, a lot. So I'll be starting with consent, and mattering upon how long it takes me to get through, might be more than 1 month. We'll be going into, so this is the exercise for consent. It's really long, but there's more. So it's probably going to be 2 months. So that's July and August. Yeah, that's okay. Okay, so that's July and August right there. And this will probably be September. What are boundaries? And real life worksheet, boundaries, self practice, and that's it. So September, yeah, from June, July, August, right? July, August, September will be consent and boundaries, and June will be the attachment styles. And I would like to have a worksheet for you. So that is my work to do before then. Thank you so much for viewing my video. And I am just doing this out of the blue. So mind you, I am not doing any alterations to these videos. It is practice. And so any information that you have or interest or questions or advice, please put in the comments or send me a message. I would appreciate that, because I'm working just like you to get better at what I do love to do when I do it. And I hope you have a great week. It is, again, May 20th, 2024. And again, my name is Ray from Ray Life Coaching here in Connecticut, United States, and I'll see you next month. Bye.